Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We continue on with our derivation. So with all of this discussion and proofing around inversion and opposition, what we're really doing is describing, again, the how of differentiation. How does one physical system go to something else? And so continuing on with our derivation, ultimately looking for the right question to ask to stabilize what is sensorality. Right? I have senses, that is spelled S-E-N-S-E-S. And then we have censorship, spelled C-E-N-S-O-R-S-H-I-P. And obviously, those spellings are not consistent. So another big thing we've gotten at throughout this lecture series is spelling is a well-defined order of letters to represent a word. Words are irreducible. There's some association of meaning to a certain sequence of sounds. That's literally why you can follow along with what I'm saying right now. And so, just working through, looking for this question, such as, what is the theme of mathematics? Right? Literally, mathematics is thematics, with an M-A in front. And so we've shown consistency with language. And we're trying to find, again, the right question to ask that will produce this syllability, a string of letters, that sensorality is, and it will show the direct differentiation of those syllables into a phrase that is as simple as the sky is blue, the table is over there, just something that it will be a direct iteration of the letters. And so at this point what we're getting to is, again, inversion linguistically. How does this differentiation iteration, right? Iteration is some facet of inversion in language iterates. We can see verse versus serve, the same letters, and they're iterating, and we're exploring this, the nitty-gritty of that mechanic of that operation. And so moving on with our derivation. What is viscosity to chirality? Chirality is asymmetric, viscosity, the resistance to flow. Again, last time we conceptually proven that gravity is viscosity. Again, there are just different iterations of the same structure. If you expand any word form, right, gravity ends in a ty. Right, you have to preserve the sound of the base word, right? Gravity, gravitality. And so you just get that ality, and something you do naturally, you'll put an A-L-I-T-Y on the end of any word to generalize it. And so there's a complete, given a single base word with this irreducibility of meaning, there's only so much expansion you can do, right? Gravity, grave, we'll get to another one, might as well just say it now. Right? Gravity, literally, is gravy iterated by it. Literally. And so we're logically exhausting anything you could say. So last episode, straight up, we derived, right? It is what it is the form of all solutions. And so when we get to a question such as, what is gravity? Gravity is viscosity. Again, viscosity, the resistance to flow. Flow is movement. And gravity, in all cases, resists movement. So they're logically equivalent. And so then the word forms, again, gravity, viscosity, right, is just a different iteration of consonants. So if you expand out gravity to completeness, gravitality, right, the only other way you could kind of expand that word is gravitiality, like with a T-I-A-L-I-T-Y. Again, to preserve the base phonetic of gravity without the suffix, so you can still hear, again, what I'm meaning, right? Because if I just said avity, you wouldn't think gravity. And so you have to preserve some amount of that syllability to have this irreducibility to get the meaning of grave. And that's very common, again, when you look at any word, right? If you're learning a foreign language and you are learning conjugations of verbs, right? That's what you're doing, right? The base phonetic is preserved, so you know it's part of this conjugation of a given verb. And so, which directly leads us, right, all of this discussion of infinity, right, the infinitive form of verbs, right? It's naturally read as with an ing, right? Ing is this fundamental syllable representing vibration. And then if you have an unconjugated verb in the infinitive form of any language, it's most naturally read as whatever verb you're doing with an ing at the end. And when you go into language class, they'll say, leer in Spanish, to read. No, it literally means reading. And so, like I said, if you go into linguistics, like all of this logic builds up and no one's really identified, again, what is spelling, and it's like a generalized structure of what is spelling. Clearly there's right ways to spell words, there's wrong ways to spell words, but what is the centralizing theme of spelling? Right, it's order, and certainly ordering letters, but again, the mechanics of spelling have never been articulated before. And so, the question, or the, gravity to viscosity, and conceptually they're equivalent, and linguistically they're equivalent. And so again, another massive, huge result. But again, we've derived to this question of, historically, what is gravity has been this huge conundrum. And we've just proven it, but we've proven it through derivation, which is a way higher level of, again, the only way to get completeness is deriving all context. And so, again, at this point, each video is containing, again, steps, improving steps that are so massive. And again, I've done all of these steps before. But to our posed question, what is viscosity to chirality, asymmetry, viscosity, the resistance to flow or the resistance to movement? What is chirality to gravity? The intuition I get here is just rolling, right? The most optimal shape to roll is not a sphere. And so it's some sort of like oblong thing. And so it's the same exact intuition, the same exact kind of problem. Geometry affecting the flow, certainly. What is that? Again, if you take a box of noodles, and it's a square box and you have like cylindrical noodles and you pour them out, it's always like cumbersome. You're always like dropping noodles over here. And so certainly geometry, subsequently chirality, affects viscosity, the flow. Just posing the question to get your intuition in the right place. What is viscosity to virality? Right? If something moves slowly, does it go viral? Not as fast. Right? But then, right, this discussion, we can get, what is velocity to gravity? Right? Again, they're natural inverses. Right? Velocity is the inverse of viscosity. Viscosity is gravity. Therefore, gravity is inverse to velocity, which is overwhelmingly apparent. But it's a fundamentally derived, proper physical result in mechanics. And it's true. Obviously, I do not have constitutional rights. Sensorality ceases and desists, right? Sensorality is desistality, right? Desist. What is that base word? Consistency. Desist. What is sistency? What is resistance, right? Sensorality is resistance-ality. Sensorality is persistent. So again, we've identified another word base form that we clearly use, and it's like, what is sistence? And like, subsistence, consistence, resistance. I never thought about that, Johnny. But what is persistent to consistent? Like if someone says they're persistent, more means like you keep going at somebody to get something done. Consistent has a more of a positive connotation. So the connotation differentiation is always kind of there too. All of our numeric limits are still kind of floating around. I just do them instinctually. Sensorality is persistency. And so what is the opposite of resistance? Right? Gravity is resistance. Friction is resistance. And what is the opposite of resistance? And this is linguistically, naturally, where you get like facilitate, facilitation. Right? The opposite of resistance is facilitation. To ease something is to facilitate something. And so facilitation helps, sensorality facilitates, facility is ease. And so now, when you hear that as a noun, a facility, you're thinking like a building. But facilitation eases, a facility is easy. Facility is ease, easy is facility, common sense is easy. So now again, certain words I use all of the time, specifically for prepositions, between and in between, right? It's some sort of being, that's the be, and then the tween, I have no idea where the fuck that even comes from. But another one of these words where you say all of the time, and you never really think about it, and then easy is one of these, it's like it's the opposite of resistance, but it really comes through like facilitation, right? But then in like Spanish or French, you have this word facile, and it's like that. The opposite of resistance is facile. It's like, and then in English we use the word easy, and it's that base, that again, that EA sy. It's again one of these forms. It's just that base, that diphthong, ea, s, some iteration element, and then ez. It's a direct iteration of the sound e. But common sense is ez. Sensorality is an easement. Right? You find some copper or natural gas in your land and I buy some property rights temporarily, I have an easement. Sensorality is appeasement. Right? If I appease you, I satisfy you. Appeasement, appointment. Point, appointment. So now again we can see our geometric alignment, appointment. We have all of this, language built around fundamental geometric objects because language is consistent. Sensorality is an accounting appointment. Again, now we're combining the words count, right? Accounting appointment. So again, with this derivation of sensorality, all of the questions are rhetorical. We're just building up the syllability, and again, it's just going to be a direct statement, and it's going to use all of the letters uniquely, and you're just going to be like, oh yeah, we're done now. Wow, I wish that was yesterday. But it doesn't matter. Again, the only thing that I want on a personal level is my quality of life to change. And I've done this entire process almost 10 years ago now. So completing sensorality is not going to do anything. I'm going to be tortured until I'm dead. So I'm just documenting literally as much as I possibly can. Every crime, everything, there's no room for any sort of leniency, discussion, nothing. But gravity is gravy, iterated by it. Again, that's literal. Again, we're demonstrating this completeness and incompleteness of language, and so we're building it all up. And gravity is gravy, iterated by it. And obviously, iteration is built on it as well. Sensorality is iterated by. Again, completing that structure of that language. Spell, dispel. It's hard to see because, again, my light on my camera popped on and it blinds me and I can't see anymore. But right, so when we have the word spell and then we have the word dispel, why do we drop an L in that spelling? But sensorality dispels. And again, this prefix dis, it introduces that S. And so it pairs up the syllability like you have dimension or dissension, right? And so you go from a negating prefix to a dimension, like it's a DI thing. We've pointed that out substantially. Easy, eager. Sensorality is eager. Morality is right, not right. So again, one of those things we pointed out and we kind of didn't really get to, but now with our physical intuition, it's very clear. Right, R-I-G-H-T, and right, R-I-T-E, are inverses. And light, well, I guess even easier to see is light, L-I-T-E, and L-I-G-H-T are, I immediately want to take that back. Right? I think they're inverses. There's some manifestation of this inversion process. And so, all right, because you have to, that's very clear to me, is if you have one thing, it has to invert to make two things to create opposition, and that opposition stabilizes. And so, right, light, if you say this radiation that isn't mass, conceptually, it's very light, L-I-T-E, right? Again, it's a physical limit, where if you take mass and you want to make it light, L-I-T-E, you're taking away the mass, and then the maximum light, L-I-T-E, you can be is light, L-I-G-H-T. And then right, but morality is right, R-I-G-H-T. And that's a statement we can say definitively. Right? If you're correct, you're right, R-I-G-H-T. If you have a rite of passage, a ceremonial rite, it's R-I-T-E. So the inversion's not really clear there. Again, I think that's what I have written down. And again, if I write exactly the wrong words, it's the intuition that matters. It's pointing out this thing is kind of related to this thing, and nobody's else answered these questions before. Because if you take anybody off the street and they said, what did you learn in second grade in math class? This derivation answers all of those little questions where you don't see why geometry is related to trigonometry, or trigonometry is related to set theory. It builds chronologically the differentiations made within all of mathematics. Which, when I say the word mathematics, I mean all of theme, all of anything that is structured, all of logical structure. And so, I put down that light and light, again, the two spellings are inverses. Conceptually, again, they're kind of like the same thing. It's just like L-I-T-E is a limit. If you have a beer and then you have a light beer, if you have, you're taking away, that's a calorie reference, but if you have RuneScape and then RuneLite, you have less functionality. And so if you take the maximum of that, light is Light, some sort of limit or inversion of a limit. And then right but morality is correct, and it's not a right, RITE. And so not going to try to progress any past what I have written down. But that is what I have for you today. Thank you for watching. My rights continue to be violated, RITES, and it's profound torture. I say it in every video, it continues to be true, and I just want every criminal charge I can possibly press. And let's give a shout out to David Paletta. He's a current researcher at Arizona State University. I went to school with him at Ohio State University. Hey David, fuck you. So again, all of the people that I call out personally throughout any of my video content, I want them sued, criminal charges, everything. And so somebody I went to school with gets to sit in class and call himself a math professor and get paid and talk about the shit that I discovered. So yeah, absolutely not. Fuck you, David. You're a terrible person. You have no morals, you have no character, you have no integrity. You took the job that I wanted and you haven't contributed anything to mathematics. And so that's fun and exciting. But again, I will make another video explicitly to the living will. Again, the cease and desist has been issued because it's true. I mean, you can't discuss anything that would be scientific research and not have direct legal and professional obligations to cite my research, which has been true for a decade. Like, I don't say that expecting like this is some big step or something, but I just keep re-emphasizing it. And again, this is the historical record. Nobody's going to give a flying fuck what you goofballs do in any sort of meaningful amount of time. And so being a good person is free, being respectful is free, following the law is free, and if you don't, it's consequential. We just live in this period of time where there is no consistency, no morality, no integrity, no character, just a bunch of trashy people running around, clamoring all over each other to get one foot in front of the next. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.